even our gas price will come down. Because if our gas price comes down, look at all that extra money we can free up for ourselves. When you're paying pushing $4 a gallon, it's expensive to fill up the tank. It costs me almost $70 to fill up my gas tank when gas is around $4 a gallon. So I'm in all the above. I think we can work with green energy, develop the technology, but don't depend on it because it's not there yet. Wind power, I think we get our electricity from wind. But I'm all for drill now and drill as much as we can. Because we've been told for 20 years that that's not going to help. If we'd have started drilling 20 years ago, we'd already had the oil going out. It doesn't make sense to me why they keep saying we're not going to drill our way out of the economic problem that we have with oil prices. I believe we can. From the 2008, just before the presidential election, when the President Bush said he was going to open up drilling, the gas prices went from $3 down to $1.80. Just the threat of doing it. So I think that if we drill now, and even the threat of that we're going to get our oil from our own resources, will drive the price down. So that's how I think we can. I'm an all the above person.
Okay, I have to abide by the rules again. I'm sorry, okay? Mr. President, coal-fired power plants are very important to us in the 6th District, and you're not going to cripple our energy policy. Not only that, Mr. President, we're going to roll back the over 2,000 new pages of EPA regulations that you put in place since you've been in office. And thirdly, we are going to start drilling on the North American continent. Mr. President, study after study has shown that there's enough oil on the North American continent to feed the world for at least the next 100 years. And there is no good reason why we cannot go after those natural resources.
Congressman Frazier, the question is, what are your solutions to the energy crisis? No, that's what I'm asking you. It's your question.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Just trying to help you out.
Believe me, I don't need it repeated. Amen to everything Brother Don said. It's kind of awkward for me. I've been in the Oval Office, and if you'll look at my website, you'll see I've had quite a conversation with President Reagan. It's on video on my website. I've always talked to real live presidents, I think 4 of them that I remember, but never an individual with as inept to running the country as this gentleman. It's a big step from a community organizer to try to be president of the United States and the head of the free world. It's amazing we've survived the last 3 years. Anyway, drill, again I said amen if you paid attention to what Don said, to all of those things. No point in reiterating that. I've also, I talked to you a little bit about flying airplanes. I've flown a couple of supersonic airplanes. That's over 1,500 miles an hour. That's scary. I don't think we could get that kind of speed out of palm scum. I know the Learjet that I'm licensed to fly certainly wouldn't do well. It'll burn a lot of different fuels, but palm scum isn't one of them. The coal, this country is blessed with the abundance of energy. I've read stories and studies, 500 years of energy in the United States. I mean, why are we fooling around with this stuff? Mr. President, in all due respect, get off your duff and let's stop drilling today.
Up next is going to be Congressman Van Wy. The next audio clip, please.
But the Supreme Court never ventured into the issues of redistribution of wealth and sort of more basic issues of political and economic justice in the society. And to that extent, as radical as I think people try to characterize the Warren Court, it wasn't that radical. It didn't break free from the essential constraints that were placed by the founding fathers in the Constitution, at least as it's been interpreted, and Warren Court interpreted it in the same way that generally the Constitution is a charter of negative liberties, says what the states can't do to you, says what the federal government can't do to you, but it doesn't say what the federal government or the state government must do on your behalf. And that hasn't shifted.
All right. From here on, if you want the question repeated for each of you, please say so. But we'll, for speed now, so you know how it's going to go, I'll read the question, we'll say it, and if you need it, ask, that's fine, it won't count against you, but that way we can keep flowing, okay? So here's the question for Congressman Van Wy. Was the Constitution written for the protection of our citizens and our citizenry from the overreach of our government, or was it intended to evolve as a, quote, living document?
No, our Constitution is a set document, just like the Bible, I believe, is a set document.
Right.
That it should not be changed, it should be adhered to. We can make amendments because there are some things that the Founding Fathers knew that was going to have to be addressed. Slavery was one of them. You know, it was put in the Constitution where it could be addressed, but it has to go through a lot of processes. It has to go past, and it has to become a law, then it has to be ratified by at least half the states before it can. So no, the Constitution should not be changed. We do live in a, not in a democracy, in a republic. We do that we are represented. If we lived in a democracy type of system, whoever's in charge can change it every time, and the most popular thing can change it every time. So I believe our founding fathers came up with a document that is firm, grounded, and it should stay just like it is, and we should get right back to the basics and follow it, not try to change it. It is not a living document. It is a concrete stone document, and that's what I believe in that. Good.
Congressman Bates.
There you go again, Mr. President. And may I remind the President of the United States, you're not the President of Europe, you're the President of the United States of America. And I will say to you, the people, another reason why we cannot afford 4 more years of Barack Obama is because this President, unlike any other President in our history, has circumvented the Constitution of the United States again and again. And the 4 most dangerous words in his State of the Union address several months ago were these: with or without Congress.
Yes.
This is a man that cannot be stopped. He must be voted out. He must be fired this November. And on January the 20th, 2013, we must swear in a brand new President of the United States. The Constitution of the United States was put in place to protect us, as Ronald Reagan said, from the overreaching arm of the federal government. It also was put in place not, as the President said, to redistribute wealth to each of us, but to give us the opportunity to be as successful as we could be. I did not grow up in a wealthy home. I grew up on a small farm on the southeast edge of Greensburg, Indiana. But my parents taught me the meaning of hard work. They taught me that you could be as successful as you were willing to work as hard enough to be. And that's what I've attempted to do. And this President of the United States has done everything in his power to stifle growth and stifle opportunity in the United States. It must stop, ladies and gentlemen. This Constitution came into place to set us free, not to make us slaves to the federal government.
Congressman Frazier.
I will have to read that back.
That's no problem. Congressman Frazier, the question is, was the Constitution written for the protection of the citizens and citizenry from the overreach of our government, or was it intended to evolve like a, quote, living document, end quote?
Yes, the first part, it was drafted to protect us from the federal government. That's why we have a Second Amendment. I have the M1 rifle, not the very M1 rifle that I bought this one later at a gun show, in my closet at home. I mean, that's precisely why that amendment exists. The Second Amendment, very important. The Constitution, 5,000 words. Here it is, right here, along with some other documents in here. Unbelievable. Gettysburg Address, 268 words. I mean, we have gotten totally carried away in the federal government. 10 million words in our federal tax code. Unbelievable. There's so much reform that needs to be done. So your job is you're going to have to pick one of 8 people on the ballot on May the 8th to send to Washington to get this foolishness that's evolved over the years, unconstitutional, most of it, stopped. And it's not going to be a pleasant task, believe me. I told you earlier in my opening remarks about there's a time to say no, and there's going to be all kinds of pressure brought to bear to freshman congressmen. I've indicated I was a freshman senator, and you're going to have to dig your heels in and get it stopped now.
Congressman Sizemore.
I forgot you wanted to try mine. Mine's out of the truck. I forgot to bring it in. Without this, there's no him, and there's no us. It would fall, I mean, to pieces. There's just no way around it. I mean, and I agree, you can amend it. I've been asked in several surveys, would I agree to a human life amendment to the Constitution? And, when you amend this, then that opens all kinds of doors for everywhere else. And I have said that I probably would, I would want to look at that and read that before I could, committed to it. But here's the deal. If you don't have this, we don't have this, because this wouldn't be here without, this. This is what created this. The people that stood behind this died. I mean, my grandpa, I said this in a debate, he was wounded twice in World War II. He got wounded, Philippines, went out, healed up, said, hey, my brothers are there, went back in, wounded again, sit back out. I mean, my whole family has fought for this, country in one way or another. And when people like this go against this, it kills me. I mean, I just want to get infuriated. But I guess you have my answer to that question. And, thank you.
Iran, Cuba, Venezuela, these countries are tiny compared to the Soviet Union. They don't pose a serious threat to us.
Congressman Bates, what is your view on the war on terror? How does this contrast with President Obama's view?
Mr. President, Osama bin Laden was one man, but he still wreaked havoc in the United States of America. It's not the size of the country that's important. It's, are those countries bent on destroying the United States of America? And sir, if they are, we have a responsibility to protect this great country. And in my humble opinion, the President of the United States, and we could debate whether or not we should have gone into Iraq or Afghanistan. In my opinion, ladies and gentlemen, there's no